My name is Rendón. I'm a photographer here in San Antonio, and this is Una Plática. Well, I started 50 years ago in high school as a photographer for the school yearbook and newsletter. And I didn't originally plan on being an artist and photographer, but once I graduated high school, I got to work at a photo lab here in San Antonio that was run by a photographic artist. His name was Sonny Lee. And he very much influenced me to pursue not just commercial photography, but artistic photography. And I've been doing it ever since. Well, first of all, I'm Mexican-American. And second of all, my subject matter as a photographer when I first got started was not cultural. I was just documenting whatever came in front of my lens, basically. And in many cases, it was pictures of rock and roll artists that would be coming here to perform. Now, back in 1985, when I started doing work for the Guadalupe Cultural Arts Center, then that's when I really started to focus on my culture. I had already been photographing fiesta and charreada since early 1980-81. But I didn't really start focusing on exhibiting my photography as art and specifically as Latino art until about 1985, when the first exhibit I did was some photographs of the Virgen de Guadalupe. Well, I'm not sure what kind of impact it has other than, you know, photography is a very strong medium. It can really evoke a lot of emotion in people depending on the subject matter in the photograph. And most of my photographs, I try to portray Latino culture in the most positive light possible. And so a lot of my photographs are of, I did a series of charreada photographs that turned into a book. I've got a retrospective book out now that features all the different themes I've focused on as a photographer that have to do with, called Mi Cultura, which is just street scenes of Mexican life here in San Antonio and in Mexico. I've got another series on the Virgen de Guadalupe where she's just depicted in all kinds of, you know, she's so iconic. She's on blankets on people's beds, she's on cars, she's on t-shirts, she's all over the place. So things like that are how I sort of use my work to hopefully have an impact and evoke a reaction from the viewer. Well, of course my father I looked up to very much because he inspired me as an artist. But there are many other photographers that I've studied and emulated that have helped me, as well as the gentleman that ran the photo lab when I first got started. He's now moved on to Santa Fe, and he does a particular type of photography called photogravure, which is a very elaborate lab process to complete. And so it's a lot of times in my evolution as a photographer, I've had to learn and master lots of different ways of doing photography, a lot of different processes. Absolutely. Where Aslan Gallery is located right now is where I grew up in this neighborhood. So to me it's very important to be part of the cultural fabric here in San Antonio and in this neighborhood. And I've been coming to their exhibits since they were first opened and located over in Las Palmas, over more on the west side. Well, the one that I have attended the most is all their Day of the Dead exhibits, and they also have an exhibit dedicated to the Virgen de Guadalupe that I like to attend as well. I tell them it's going to be hard. To be an artist takes a lot of discipline and a lot of perseverance, and you have to just be willing to go out there and take chances. One of the pieces that is very important is a picture of my aunt, my Tia Lupe, who's who's named after the Virgen de Guadalupe, and it's a picture of her in her bedroom with a blanket of the Virgen de Guadalupe on her bed. And it's a very important picture to me, maybe to the audience as well, because to me it's important not only because she was a second mother to me and I spent a lot of time with her, and I could do no wrong in her eyes. So anytime I was in trouble at home, I would go to my aunt's house and stay with her. But when I got asked to participate in my first art exhibit through the Guadalupe Cultural Arts Center, Kathy Vargas invited me to show some work based, on the Virgen de Guadalupe. So immediately the first picture I thought of was of my aunt in her bedroom with that blanket of the Virgen de Guadalupe. So that's a very important image. It also is on the cover of my retrospective book that was recently published. And the second picture would probably be of Selena. It's a portrait I did of her, a very serious black and white portrait I did of her back in 1993. And it was selected to be in the National Portrait Gallery at the Smithsonian. It was the first image I had collected by the Smithsonian. And since then, several other of my images have been collected into the Smithsonian. And the third image is probably going to be one of my favorite images of a charro, and it's a close-up of a charro on his horse, just showing the saddle, and very prominent is his gun in his holster.